The Mountain West has finally released its media deal. We know who the partners are, how many games they'll get, how much exposure they'll get. What we don't know, much like the Pac-12 deal, is the actual financials. Let's break it down. This is the Let's Run podcast. Everybody, welcome into the show today. Grateful to have you be a part of the Let's Run podcast. While you are here, please do like this video. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel as we are barreling towards 1,000 subscribers. Grateful to have you. Please, please, please like the video. Please subscribe. Please share. And let me know down in the comments your thoughts. Look, I'm obviously not an objective party in this discussion. I have my biases. And so if you think I'm pointing out something and you think I'm being biased or you think my analysis is off, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I try to read and respond in some way to every single comment that's posted on my videos. So the Mountain West releases its media deal. Holy moly, we've been waiting for this for a long time. Back in the summer, Gloria Nevarez, Mountain West commissioner, stated that the Mountain West media deal was incoming. And I think that, most of the details and the nuts and bolts of this media deal have been in place for a very long time. And I think that both conferences, both the Pac-12's media deal and the Mountain West media deal, the litigation between the two, the obvious negotiation leverage plays that both of them are making, not only against each other, but also against the media companies that they're trying to create these deals with. There's a lot going on. And so I think it's important to frame this correctly and just to be honest about what this media deal is and what it isn't. The guy that I like his analysis of the deal a lot, and there's been a bunch of people that have put forth pretty good reads on the deal, but the biggest story definitely is in The Athletic. I actually have The Athletic. I have a subscription to The Athletic, so you can see his article. But the deal is also a part of the Mountain West move to Las Vegas to be the Mountain West new home for or base of operations. The new Mountain West includes Air Force, Grand Canyon, Hawaii, Reno, New Mexico, Northern Illinois, San Jose State, and UC Davis, UTEP, and Wyoming, alongside, of course, UNLV. The new deal did confirm that Fox, which I think if you want to try and point out like what's the best part of this Mountain West deal, it's certainly the Mountain West's renewal of their relationship with Fox. Fox is, arguably the place to watch college football alongside ESPN and CBS, of course. Obviously, the CBS portion of the deal had already been disclosed earlier in the last summer. But whether the Mountain West was going to keep Fox as a partner, particularly, Fox had that exclusive deal to broadcast Boise State home games. And so there was some question, with Boise State and the other schools leaving the Mountain West, if the Mountain West would be able to maintain their relationship with, by all accounts, one of the best media partners you can have in college sports with Fox. And they were able to do that. So both Fox and CBS will continue to be a part of the Mountain West. There is also a CW portion of the deal. Basically, CW is going to broadcast the games, but not produce them. This is kind of a lot like what the Pac-12 is doing with the CW. The Pac-12 is producing the games, and then the CW basically just pays the Pac-12 a flat fee to broadcast them. The Mountain West is going to do something similar. I do not know exactly how the production of those games, I believe it's 12 games, is going to go. Because, is the Mountain West themselves going to be producing them, or is UNLV or is the Mountain West going to outsource them to their final partner, which is, of course, a Kiwisa, or I'm trying to find the name of them. Sorry. What was the name of the partner again? I forget. Where is it at? Okay. I can't find it. But it's a partner that I hadn't really ever heard of. It's called Kiwisa, and essentially they are a kind of third party sports broadcasting agency kind of company. that helps teams, mostly professional teams at this point. But this is certainly, I don't know if it's their first foray into college, but the Mountain West is essentially using kind of a third party to help them produce not only, from what I understand, the CW games, but also all of the other games. Because there's when you do the math up together, there's a whole bunch of games that are going to be put on streaming platforms. This third party called Kiwisa, I believe, is going to be helping the Mountain West. Is going to be helping the Mountain West produce these games, and so frankly, I think it's a pretty good deal. And maintaining that relationship with Fox and maintaining that relationship with CBS. And the CW, I don't like that business model of producing games and putting them on the CW. But ultimately, it is what it is. You can quibble with it. You can get over it. But I think it's fine. I wish that the Mountain West, I would rather the Mountain West just use the Mountain West network, but apparently the Mountain West is not happy with the not that they're not proud of the Mountain West network, but they think that they could do better than the Mountain West network. And so the streaming component of the Mountain West network is going to be put behind a paywall. I believe you are going to be able to access those games that are going to be on streaming on things like Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime, as well as the continued use of the Mountain West network, and that there should be a substantial increase in the quality of these broadcasts. And so hopefully that's the case. I'm going to take their word for it that will be the case. I have never been that impressed with the Mountain West network. However, it's hard to be too critical of it considering it's free. Now that it's not going to be free, I think it's going to be important to make sure that the Mountain West network is a lot higher quality than it has been. And so I thought this guy Nathan Carroll, he covers Boise State. He did a good job of breaking down the numbers. I think these numbers can be a little bit misleading, but I wanted to show his post because I think he does a good job. He's a good writer. He writes for Bronco News Nation, kind of breaking down the numbers, the national numbers. So let's share this tab instead. Let's go to his tweet. The Mountain West will have 15 games on CBS Sports / Paramount. The Pac-12 will have 13, a minimum, and then the championship game. Both conferences have plans to do 13 games on the CW. The Mountain West will have 12 games on Fox and Fox affiliates, and the Mountain West and the Pac-12 will have 22 games on the USA Network. This is obviously this is for football. So in terms of football, the Mountain West and Pac-12, in terms of games on CBS / Fox, which I would consider the highest value of the national linear distributors, the Mountain West actually has more than the Pac-12. However, the Pac-12 compensates with that with 22 games on the USA Network. So it's about 9 more games per year that'll be televised nationally on linear television for the Pac-12 on the football side. And ultimately, I think that's a pretty good deal. And so, I think that the deals are very similar. In terms of basketball, in terms of football. They both get similar numbers of games. I would value the Fox games that the Mountain West is getting a lot more than the USA Network games. I've had people ask me why I don't love the USA Network games, why I'm not a big fan of the USA Network. And it's basically the same problem that I have with the CW. The Pac-12 is paying to produce all of these USA Network games, which is going to be a huge cost, and it's going to bite into the profit margin of the Pac-12. And frankly, USA Network, there's something about for example, and the app Tubi. If you've ever heard of the app Tubi, it was basically a free streaming service that was available in every TV in America. And it never really put out good content, despite being widely accessible for free to every human being on planet Earth. Nobody really cared about it. And there's something about brand. And USA Network, they do a lot of NASCAR. There's some golf events. They have done college basketball, of course, in the past. But I think that I just value being on traditional TV brands like Fox and CBS. And obviously the Pac-12 is still a part of CBS. But I would value the Fox slate, the availability of games to be played on Fox over on the football side, at least, games being played on the USA Network. And so, 40 games being televised, something like 40 games being televised for the Mountain West nationally, and 49 for the Pac 12. I think that the deals in terms of visibility and exposure, I think they're about the same in terms of football. And obviously, football is the most important. And obviously, and look, I wish I could just talk about the Mountain West deal in isolation, but I have to talk about it in the context of the Pac deal. These conferences have made it clear that they're going to be competing against one another. I think both conferences get good visibility. Obviously, the compensation is going to be really what decides whether how valuable this deal is for both conferences, and we don't really know how much each of the schools are being paid on these media deals. But in terms of visibility alone, for football, I would say it's a wash. Basketball, it depends. I think that visibility wise for basketball, you have to hand it to the Pac-12. And again, this runs into a lot of the same issues. So many of these games, I think over half of them are being played on USA Network. And so the Pac-12 gets at max, I believe it's maximum 105 regular season games in the entire tournament. And the Mountain West gets 58 games in the entire tournament. And a lot of these games for the Pac-12, of these 105, you look 58 Mountain West, 105 for Pac-12. It just depends on how much you value USA Network. Because in terms of Fox and CBS, the more traditional streamers, it's a similar amount. It's not that different. But the Pac-12 obviously has this USA component, whereas the Mountain West is going a more affordable route. They don't have to. The cost of productions will not be nearly as high for a streaming platform, which is where the Mountain West presumably is going to put a lot of these games through this company QEC. Which I know I'm pronouncing terribly, so I hope you guys will excuse me. But the Pac-12 gets more linear national television games for sure. I think that basketball wise, I think you have to just hand it to the Pac-12. I think that's a very good basketball deal. And women's basketball, it's pretty similar. Not that much different. It's five or six games difference. And so a lot of people have said, which deal is better? And I think it's pretty clear that just by common sense, the Pac-12 deal is better in isolation. You put them in a vacuum, right? And you say, which deal is a better deal? And I think the Pac-12 deal is probably better. Although, again, I really do like that Fox component. And I'm very skeptical of this USA Network component. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying it's a gamble to produce all these games and to put your brand next to NASCAR and then Live Golf, and, it's people watch football on Fox and CBS and ESPN. And you want those platforms invested in your success. And to not have the Fox component, I think is where you would give the Mountain West the edge. But overall, the Pac-12 media deal is a better deal. And the question was this, how much better is this deal compared to how much it costs these teams to put themselves in a position to be in the Pac-12 in the first place? A lot of these are kind of unknowable answers at this point in time, whether it was financially worth it. I can tell you, and again, I'm a biased party, so take this all with a grain of salt, but financially, I think the decision that the schools that departed the Mountain West made was just an insane financial decision, just a really dumb financial decision, considering the amount of money that's been withheld from them. And the amount of money that, that money has to go somewhere. And I'm just going to be fascinated to see what the financial futures of schools like Utah State and Boise State are going to look like in the coming years. And so, there's opportunity costs, there's tournament shares lost, there's all these things you're losing. And then how much of an increase are you actually getting for joining the new Pac-12? In terms of exposure, I think you can give the edge to the Pac-12. If you really value USA Network and linear TV above all else, you may give the Pac-12 a decisive victory in terms of exposure, but I think that they're pretty similar, to be honest with you. And so it comes down to the financials. How much is the Pac-12 being paid? How much is the Mountain West being played? Now, we did get a tidbit of information from Chris Vanini, who did confirm what we've basically known, that the legacy members of the Mountain West will not see a decrease in their distributions below the $3.5 million. The Mountain West might use funds not directly tied to the TV deal to make those distributions of $3.5 million happen. But that's a good sign. The fact that the Mountain West was even willing to release that piece of information, which if it was in the article that Chris Vanini wrote for The Athletic, it was definitely a curated piece of information by the press office at the Mountain West. And so, look, like with inflation and all of the crap going on, and the increased costs of things like revenue sharing, is a 3.5 is staying at $3.5 million a year for your distribution for a school like UNLV or Wyoming or New Mexico. Is that good? Not really, but it's far better than the alternative of the number decreasing. Frankly, the financials of the Mountain West deal, the Mountain West is going to be using whatever they can get out of these court lawsuits that have been filed by the Pac-12. They're going to be using those to subsidize everything anyway. And so, really, for me, as long as the deal is, capable of keeping the teams at $3.5 million, which I think it will be. I really do. I don't think the conference will have to compensate, but I don't have any way of knowing that for sure because the conference hasn't released the official amount. But frankly, if you're talking about the finances of the Mountain West, the much more important story for me is the status of the lawsuits, not necessarily what media companies are paying the schools. And so on the Pac-12 side, I've seen people float, this 6 to 10 million or 7 to 10 million dollars, and how much is the conference using of that fund to actually, create these games? What's the actual distribution? Because they can say, oh, it pays $10 million per school, or it pays $8 million or $7 million per school. But you have to know that number is going to be inflated because they're going to have to pay for production costs of their games. When CBS gives the Pac-12 a media deal, it says, hey, we're going to produce your games and we're going to pay you some money. When the CW does that, and this goes for both conferences using the CW says, hey, here's some money and here's our channels. You can use them. Go produce the games and put them on our channels. And that's two completely different business models. And so, frankly, the American conference is getting something like 6.8, 6.9, 6.7. It's just under $7 million. And I think that if the Pac-12 could say that their deal was the highest of the group of five, which would be $7 million, I think the Pac-12 would say that. And again, this is conjecture, so take it with a grain of salt. I think it's like $6 million post production costs. I bet you they got like an $8 million deal, and it's going to cost a couple $1,000,000 to produce these games. And I bet you it's like $6 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it's below $6 million. It's the 5 to 7 range is really, and it's not above 7. If it was above 7 and they could say that it was the highest in the group of 6, I think the Pac-12 would be saying that. As for the Mountain West, it's probably 3 to 4. It's in that range. If it's slightly below 3.5, that's where the compensation will come in. It's the 3 to 4 range. And so financially, the media deals themselves, are they big deals? For sure. But for me, when it comes to the finances between, whether all of this was worth it or not for the Pac-12 schools that departed the Mountain West, the much more prescient issue I would posit is the lawsuits. That's $150 million at stake between the two lawsuits. And really, we're talking about a 5-year period here, the 2026 to 2031 period, which, for a 5-year period for a conference, for a G6 conference is huge. And so I don't think the Pac-12, this is just my opinion about it, I don't think the Pac-12 is getting more than like $6 million per school per year. And I think it was a bad media negotiation in terms of like cash payments to these schools and these conferences. I don't think it was a great environment. I think having two separate conferences basically bidding against each other created an environment that was friendly to the TV networks. When you have more competition, prices go down. And whether you like to admit it or not, if you're a Pac-12 fan, the Mountain West is competition to you. It's a G6 conference in the same exact time zone, fighting for the same exact media partners. And so, frankly, the enhanced competition decreased the leveraging position for all parties involved, with the exception of Fox, CBS, and the CW, and obviously USA and QEC, whatever. I can't say that streaming production that Mountain West is going to use. It was not a great negotiating environment for these conferences. If it had just been one conference, if it had been, 8 schools taken from the Mountain West and put in the Pac-12, and a 10-team conference and no Texas State and probably no Gonzaga at that point. But I think it would have been a much stronger negotiating position for the Pac-12 to be in, because the Mountain West wouldn't exist anymore. You would have seen, schools like Wyoming and San Jose State and Hawaii having to go independent or having to join Conference USA. And that would have been pretty tough. And you would have been in a stronger leverage position when you were trying to negotiate with these TVs. So I think ultimately the finances, while yes, they're important, and while yes, they're a measuring stick, the much bigger issue here is still the lawsuits. How are the lawsuits going to be resolved? If the lawsuits go decisively in the favor of the Mountain West, if the Mountain West can walk away with $100 million, which I think there's a chance they can, then I think that you can probably say that the Mountain West, in terms of finances, kind of won. I do not care about a period beyond 2032. College sports are fundamentally very likely to change by then anyway. And so this is not a 20-year race that we're talking about here. This is a 5 or a 6-year race. And these lawsuits are just a huge deal. And so I just want to say, like, the Pac-12 has a good media deal that's going to do that. That's going to help that conference move forward. The Mountain West has a good media deal that's going to help that conference move forward. I don't think. I think if you want to say the Pac-12's media deal is better, you can say that, because the Pac-12 is, has better brands, better basketball brands, better football brands. However, if you want to say that you like the Mountain West's more traditional approach to streaming, I think you can say that too. If I had to give a winner, I would give the win to the Pac-12. I think it's a better deal. I'd rather have the Pac-12's deal than the Mountain West deal. So not that, the Pac-12 beating the Mountain West gets them anything. It doesn't mean anything. Good job. You beat the conference you destroyed. But I'd give the winning team to the Pac-12. But I am, as a Mountain West, I don't want to say Mountain West fan, but as a UNLV fan, I'm pleased with what the Mountain West came up with. And the financials of it, I don't know if we're ever going to know. I think that there's a lot of costs in essentially creating 2 new conferences. Obviously, the Pac-12 is a completely new conference. It's a brand new entity, and the Mountain West is a mostly brand new entity. I think there are costs that both of these conferences aren't really aware of yet, and I think that there are estimates of what their schools are going to get, but nobody really knows right now, because costs of production are huge, and you just don't know. And so, good times. It's good news. And I'm hoping, we can kind of move just away from media deal speculation numbers, because the lawsuits are the specter that hangs over everything. So guys, let me know your thoughts. I want to know what you think. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, please put it down in the comment section, and I will respond, and let's talk about it. Let's debate. Let's discuss. You guys have an awesome night. Subscribe to the channel, and let's run.